town attorney are in attendance. And I'd like to begin this meeting with the approval of the agenda. Obviously, we'll strike number 3. And did you have a fill-in for number 3? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, I wanted to have a discussion, we need to have a discussion on the Parks and Rec for the option for the grant. I just wanted to put that on here.
Okay. All right, so Parks and Rec.
We're supposed to have, of course, some board members are supposed to be here too, so.
I'm gonna drop the kids out of basement line and they have to leave.
Can we move the website RFP up to number 2A?
Put that in at 3.
All right, so we're gonna put that as number 3. Or Parks and Rec will be number 5.
What's number 4?
Fair Housing Proclamation,
How come we didn't say the same?
because there's no changes there.
Do you want to change number 6 too?
Let me move it to TV. That way my paper will be completely speed up.
I can, I guess, put under, E, under the upcoming public hearings, which would be ethics. We can kind of get an idea of what we're going to do there, whether we're in favor of it, not in favor of it. We'll put that down. I don't have anything else. Brian, you got anything that you want to add? Well, Susan, all in favor? Okay, if we could begin then with the, moving on, the approval of the minutes from the March 31st, 2014 meeting.
Motion to approve the workshop minutes of March 31st, 2014.
All right, we have a motion by Brian Jones, and I'm saying last names because Lacey Austin does not know who it is, and she's asking for some more clarity, so that's why I'm putting last names in there and that sort of thing. Okay, so we have a motion by Brian Jones to go ahead and approve the meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by, all right, we have a second by Brian Nestor. Are there any, corrections to the minutes as they're presented? If not, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, the minutes carry. Next will be the website RFP.
Okay, so here is draft copies of the town's website RFP. And the reason why this is being kept, and not a secret, it's not common practice to present this to citizens in the community before the mayor and council have a chance to look at this. So that's why at the last meeting you did say you wanted Ms. Kimball and Susie time to take a look, and they did have that opportunity to look at it and look it over. But nobody else has seen this. This is
Actually, I thought they were going to be part of the process of creating the RFP, because I thought what we agreed to was the website committee. William was going to be a part of it, you and Ronnie and Linda, I thought was going to take that opportunity and draft it. And that's actually where I was going with that, Ryan. Not that they were going to look at it when it was all said and done. And the same thing with Suzanne. I thought Suzanne serving on the tourism committee for the county, her input could be instrumental as well. So look, I didn't, my take was more so the actual drafting of the RFP, not more so of the, them getting the RFP ahead.
It was an open invitation for anyone to join that group, so, and even the town website, that was an open invitation to the town, so they had that opportunity.
No, I understand that.
Okay, so this is the draft RFP. It was given to the town attorney to review, look over, and I do believe that Chip and his firm has made some changes to the RFP. And then I'd like to have Cora come up, because there are some questions, since her and William worked hard to create this with the group. I'd like, there's some questions of them to the changes that were made by the town attorney, so it's okay, Chip, would you entertain some questions?
That's up to you all, if you all want to do that now.
Well, yeah, I mean, Cora, if you can give us an overview, and then I was just, maybe your overview will answer some of the questions that William had sent off to Chip, but, yeah, go ahead and give your overview of the RFP.
Well, can't really read it out loud because,
For the husband.
we need to make sure to keep this
Understand.
post hold until it's actually online and out and released, but just to give people a general idea, the structure of it. And thank you, Chip, because I think that some of your structural changes were very helpful in streamlining it, and obviously, stylistically making it sound more like an RFP. It's a pretty simple structure. It has a lot of background. We had sort of a section about website objectives, but that's absorbed into the background. We talk about the responsibilities expected of the vendor, the technical requirements that we anticipate will be needed. We do not go into exactly saying what the design is going to be. Instead, we mention that there's going to be a focus group, as we said in the website committee report, and that the design will be actually entrusted to the combination of the town working with the focus group. So what we're trying to do is lay a foundation of all the technical requirements that we think should be incorporated into this redesign, and also keeping in mind, who knows what technology is going to be like 5 years from now. I mean, if we're talking about people getting on the internet using Google Glass or something, you just can't anticipate. But at least for the time being, what sort of technical requirements we think would be needed to serve the needs of the town without going into the actual design. So I just want to keep emphasizing that we're just at the technical requirement stage, because we think the design should be handled by a focus group. And we welcome participation in that focus group, obviously, from the businesses, from the museum. And we would like to see the vendor redesign the website and then offer a certain degree of technical support after the website is finished, that it should be designed in such a way for the town staff to very easily update it. It should be like Facebook. You should just be able to type something, hit a button, it's up there. So that's our goal, and that's how the RFP is reflected. We have a section about submission requirements. We'll be talking a little bit about that in the questions that William had, because these are very important in order to get the right kind of vendor. And we really sincerely hope that a lot of people will bid on this website. We hope there'll be lots of great competition. We make it very clear, the vendor has to give a cost breakdown. We have some criteria. We have 4 categories of criteria and a certain percentage to each. We have also given the town a kind of evaluation scorecard to help them in this sort of 100-point system based on those 4 categories of criteria. We have proposed basically a 3-part process consisting of the first round, which, if things go well, could start. So our proposed timeline is that proposal will be accepted June 12th, because that's the next town council meeting, but then the town council would have a month to evaluate the website proposals. And then the top 3 would be selected based on the point system. And then those top 3 would be able to give their presentations at the next public workshop meeting, August 4th in theory. And then there would be, the following meeting, the town council would finalize their decision. So this is a very long process. And even after the town makes this decision, it's going to take a few months, especially if you're working with a focus group to get the website together. So unfortunately, we're going to miss this year's tourist season. But perhaps by the time the next tourist season rolls around, it'll be a fabulous website. And then there's some legal stipulations. We had kind of a separate section for this, but the attorney sort of incorporated it into the main body of the report. I don't think we copied the evaluation thing, did you?
No.
Because I was hoping they would see that today, but I have one that you can look at.
I've got a copy of it.
Yeah, so you've got one over there, I've got one I could pass around. Sorry about that. And there's just, so you know, there's one that is sort of a 100-point system in the different questions, and the other one is a tally sheet that can be used to tally up everybody's points and determine who's the top 3 vendors. So that's just a basic outline without, releasing the RFP. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know about the RFP. And technical requirements, you saw the websites committee report, that's pretty much what we put in there. So, that's of course. So, So it's not, it's just that we wanna follow the right procedure for this. We don't want to invalidate the procurement process by the document getting leaked. You know, vendors would complain if some vendors had access to it before others. By putting it online, and then everybody has access to it at the same time, that's the best way to go about it. You know, so I just can't emphasize enough how we're really trying to be careful about this, because we put a lot of work into this, you know, giving our recommendations to the town, and we think that, you know, we feel strongly that through this process, we can come up with some really great proposals from a lot of different resources, both in the area and outside the area, and it'll be great to have the town, you know, have a lot of choices. And I realize that's gonna be that's gonna be a little bit overwhelming, which is why we put together the evaluation scorecard, try to help the town evaluate the proposals in a fair, you know, point-based manner. Although ultimately, when the top 3 vendors come in, it is gonna be a little bit, you know, kind of X factor there. They've gotta come in and impress you, you know, and all of that. So, you know, we wanna leave that in there as well. We had looked at the changes that the attorney made, and like I said, we didn't have with most of them, but unfortunately, my husband couldn't be here tonight because he's working with Ron's cousin, excuse me, out in Delaware on a very special project, and he's literally like staying overnight in Delaware tonight, but he sent an email to everybody beforehand with 6 points of clarification, and hopefully, if these could be addressed tonight, I really appreciate it, because some of them may just be misunderstandings. But these are the 6 most important things that we found. Number 1 was that we have a clear,
Can I
yes?
just make a suggestion?
Please.
I'm prepared to run down them all, and they're all, we can resolve them all.
Okay, well,
Right now.
yes,
If
let's
the
run
mayor
through them
council
right
wanna
now.
do this now, we can run through
Okay,
them.
so about the community bulletin board,
Sure.
we mentioned the community bulletin board as a website objective, but we don't want this to be misinterpreted as being some kind of online political discussion. We want it to be an announcement place.
So we agree. I mean, there's an
Okay.
official way to go down these concerns. Did you all receive that email from?
Yeah. Right.
Because you all have seen those concerns, so we've looked at those, and I can respond to each of them.
Okay,
Can I take over from here?
will you explain them all for the audience?
Well, I'll explain them to the extent we can just move on, because some we agree with. They're,
Okay,
you have to
Right.
understand, this advisory committee did a terrific job with a very detailed RFP. We then, and with a deadline, because we knew everybody wanted to move this along, we went through it and tried to reformat it and as she mentioned, for the reasons we would normally do that. And we tried to make changes that we thought were purposeful. There were some things we might have missed, so that's why some of these we can dispatch very quickly. On the issue of the bulletin board, we agree. There should be no language that suggests this is a place where there will be ongoing dialogue between the town and the public or what have you. This will be a place to go and get information. So we agree, and we'll make whatever refinements to the language to make sure it's not a place that encourages political discourse on this town's website. That's not what it's for.
right, I mean,
Correct?
we don't
It's
want
for
to create
posting, it's like literally the bulletin board out here. The
Yes.
stuff that's on that bulletin
or
board,
Bayside or
that's
whatever,
what we're
somebody
talking
has a
about, not
lost
any kind of
dog,
dialogue. So we agree with that one.
But nobody will be able to post on this bulletin board citizen-wise.
Right.
Well, no, listen, actually, this is the point I'm trying to make, is that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about this, and ultimately, it may not even happen at all, because when I discussed it with Lacey and Stephanie, they recognize that this is a great idea, which could have, it's very difficult to implement. Because, you know, that is actually something that would require a moderator, because you don't want to have people putting up things that are inappropriate. So I actually not 100% sure we can do
Well-
it, but I didn't want to, I wanted to mention it as a great advantage of having, you know, this kind of functionality in the website. A Craigslist kind of thing.
But as a town website, it would be a bulletin board for town information that the town government wants to put up there.
That's not what I was trying to say, and
Well,
that's
but
why I think there's a
what we're gonna-
misunderstanding.
This is where some parts of this RFP are gonna require the council to decide what exactly do they want and how is this gonna operate. And this is an observation I made, some of the things in the proposed RFP are really policy decisions the town needs to make before you publish it. We can't be creating,
I understand
Okay,
what you're
so-
saying, but I think I've made it pretty clear by now that I'm just trying to lay out something, we're just trying to lay out something that has the functionalities in case we want to
Capability.
use them. We haven't actually said, you know, it's really the focus group that decides, or the town, none of these things are gonna happen unless you guys want them to happen, but it's important to have make sure the vendor could do them if you wanted them to
Exactly.
happen. That's what I'm trying to say, so now is, and maybe that's why, you know, there's this misunderstanding about this, but we put this under website objectives because we wanna throw out a bunch of ideas for our vision of what could be used for, but we don't think those decisions should be made at this stage, other than making sure the vendor can do them if we need them.
Exactly, we wanted to make sure that the website is totally comprehensive and has the capabilities of providing whatever it is we think as a town or a focus group might be utilized in the future.
It's like buying a car.
It's a capability.
You may not have all the features, you know, you may decide not to have certain features in the car, but you wanna make sure the car is gonna has the ability to have air conditioning. Well, what if you don't wanna have air conditioning, you know, I'm being silly using that as an example, but I mean, there are features in a car which are optional.
So it's not an absolute, it's something that you want to make sure is included. If you want to do it, they're not going to say, oh, that's extra.
When I think of community bulletin, I think of going in a grocery store and seeing somebody putting up puppies or cars. Or,
Exactly.
you know, that type of
Exactly, and that's the
information.
idea that we had, so that it would engage the citizens who are ultimately paying for this website. We thought it might be nice to have a community page, and we may not do this because it may not work, but we thought it might be a nice idea if some yard sales within the town, if somebody wanted to post a yard sale, it stays up for a week, 2 weeks. You have to have rules for it, somebody has
Right,
to
who
generate
monitors and
policy.
moderates that?
Yeah,
Right.
so it
That's
is
a-
Right.
complicated and it's a long shot.
Right.
But I just wanna make sure people didn't think this was a place like, you know, or for the show or something, you know, I mean,
No, we
that's
were even
not our
thinking-
intention at all.
You know, you
So,
could put on
know.
there, not to interrupt you, Cora, but you could put on there if somebody needed help or needed a ride, or you could
Yeah.
have a seniors page, something like
Yeah,
that.
it's supposed to be to help, for some citizens to help other citizens. It's supposed to be a helping thing rather than a.
It sounds, I mean, it sounds like a great idea. It's
Does
that-
everybody have a
it's
business?
We have to figure it out,
Yeah.
but that's okay, we don't have to figure it out now, we just want it in the RFP, so that if we decide that it's possible to do, it's there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point we're trying to make, is like, use your imagination, think big, you know?
Well, if it's
Because
under
if we're just
moderation, I
thinking
don't-
static, just the town providing information
That's-
out and not being interactive, people aren't gonna come to the website, you know? I mean, that's why everybody would rather use Facebook, it's more interactive.
Well,
Then the vendors are gonna.
this is,
No
this
vendors.
is an example where I think the mayor and council need to think about this website. I mean, if you listen to this discussion, the way this RFP is broken out is you're gonna have two general sites, tourism, government.
It's all one site, there are just two themes to the site. There's-
Please, let me just try to boil this down so we can, but this is a very different discussion about having a town, that's all right, you can go on.
I'm just, this was all in our report, I don't understand why we're talking about it now, so.
Because nobody
Why
read
is
it.
it like a surprise to everybody that we're talking about, you know,
It's not a
doing
surprise, we got into this
It's not,
with
we're
the
just-
change in the language, that's all.
we're just-
And I'm
yeah.
agreeing, and I think the point is, on point one, we agree that this shouldn't be a place for political debate on the website. So we agree
Absolutely.
with your comment. The second comment that was made to our changes was that they thought it was redundant where we have requesting information from the responders for qualifications and references. We actually think they're two distinct requests. One for qualifications, and they can talk about other projects, but there's also specific requests for references. It's just two separate requirements of the vendor.
Yeah, my point is
So-
they shouldn't be separate, we had wanted them to be one and the same because we want the people, the clients that they've had before, we want them to provide a URL for a website that they've worked on, it's still out there, and we can call up that client and say, so, you know, find out how they felt about working with that company. You know, I mean, that's a reference, isn't it? I mean, I don't know what other reference we need, other than knowing that they've performed the work to their satisfaction.
So here's.
Character reference.
Yeah, I just don't.
As it's written now, among the requirements for submission from a responder, one is a statement of qualifications, including experience, background, description, and examples of similar work successfully performed by the vendor, providing client names and contact information. And then there's an additional requirement that 3 references be required, at least one of whom should be affiliated with a local government, identifying at a minimum, persons able to carry